Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to have a session with entrepreneurs, a great panel, and this is on behalf of IIT AGNE. So we are a non-profit organization, and we do support charitable research and educational activities. So this is going to be like an open discussion. So I will ask two questions first half, and then the floor is open for questions. So without further ado, I would like our speakers to introduce themselves. But before that, I just mention that Anand is a founder and CEO of Findability Sciences. He's here. The middle one is Sunny. He's a founder and CEO of Faster AI. And Shrikant is founder and CEO of Prioriwise. So let's begin with Anand.
Good morning, and Shailesh, thank you for having us here. Speaking to some of the IITians, that all of us are having some butterflies in stomach, but because of probably my age and experience, they are saying that you go ahead, we'll follow you. So my name is Anand. I run a company named Findability Sciences. While classically it's no more a startup, but it is in a way startup because I continue to reinvent it every year, and the latest version of that is about a year old, so can still be called as a startup. I don't have a very fancy story that I started in garage because I lived in an apartment, so there was no garage. I can't say that I did drop out from Harvard or MIT because I went to a very small engineering college in interior Maharashtra, in Marathwada region, in a town named Aurangabad where I did my engineering. So I can't say that I dropped out from Harvard and started this company. But I am a first generation immigrant as well as first generation entrepreneur. My parents were teachers, their parents were farmers. So had no experience in family or anybody around to have entrepreneurship. But a few years ago had this flashing idea that ability to find information is going to be the key to every corporate. Coined the word findability, which is not an English word. What should be the company name? Typically we think about our daughters, sons, wives, or alphabets. But findability was a cool name. I registered with US Trademark and Patent Office. It is a science, so decided to name the company as Findability Sciences. He was talking about bootstrapping. I also bootstrapped from my savings and never looked back after the first 6 months when I got the customer. We'll talk more about it, but we are now about 150 or 175 people company. I lost the count. We are in 3 countries, India, US and in Japan. And we made a record in the technology world that one of the world's smallest company formed a joint venture with one of the largest company named SoftBank in Japan. So we have a joint venture because of our technology. But thank you again for having me.
Sure. Thank you.
That's impressive. I can't match that. I'll go straight to that. So computer science graduate from VIT College, Pune University, MBA from Singapore NTU, and bootstrap founder of Faster. Have had multiple failures before landing on Faster. This Faster journey started about 9 months ago when we had multiple failures and disruptions in the market due to AI. And fortunately, we got our first customer around November time frame, and then started building with them. Had a pivotal moment in February when the new models unlocked a lot more capabilities, and then there has been no looking back since then. At 25 customers, 7 people team, growing from here, ready to scale. We'll talk more about all that stuff.
Hi, my name is Shrikant. Again, hard to follow, but my story is also, I did my undergrad in India at IIT Bombay, and then went to grad school here, came for grad school here, did in Berkeley, where I got my master's and PhD, and worked in Silicon Valley for a few years. First I worked at a biotech startup and really got to see what startup is inside, and that ignited that passion, like, okay, this is cool, but of course, you know, there's also hard things in there. And then I thought I'll jump to the other end of the spectrum and see what it's like in big companies. So I worked at Amazon for almost half a decade and saw what that's like. And after seeing both ends, I was thinking, okay, like, I think I know which path I want to go down. Anand, I also bootstrapped. We started our company, well, we officially incorporated in November of last year. So it's a very young, very new company. And like Sunny, we've also had quite a few pivots. We started with a different problem, figured out if there was enough traction, and then when we didn't find enough traction, we pivoted. And happy to go into more details as we talk more. But it's been quite a journey, and the startup journey is exciting. So right now, our company Prioriwise, our company's original name is EcoF, which is why it says Prioriwise powered by EcoFire. But we realized that the name wasn't really resonating with the customers, so we rebranded ourselves to Prioriwise. And what we essentially try to do is help bridge the productivity gap that exists between startups and big companies by making sure, by giving them the ability to do data-driven decisions for deciding how to prioritize different business activities. And studies have shown that small businesses and startups are only half as productive as big companies, and the big reason is because they're not able to leverage all this data for lack of resources, time, other things. So we are in the age of Gen AI, and we think this will be the right opportunity for us to be able to bridge that gap using Gen AI, and that's what we're trying to do with Prioriwise.
Thank you. So my first question is to Anand. You said that you did engineering in Arora. So tell us more about your journey, like from India to here and the founder's post.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm from a very interior Mahurkar, I'm brought up in a very small town in Arora, which 1.23 billion Indians also don't know that town. But grew up there. The only possibility from there, IIT was too far from that place. So the only possibility was the Aurangabad Engineering College, that when you stand up in merit, you get admission there in 90s. So got admitted, pretty much followed my brother. He got into mechanical engineering, so I took mechanical engineering, no reason. Got out, worked in factories for a couple of years. But then it started that those people from my college who did Y2K, so computer engineering, Y2K era, they were taking Java books and boarding the aeroplanes to the United States. So I started just getting curious about what is this software and what is this IT world, etc. Got a backdoor entry into Kale Consultant in Pune, which was then the banking company. They automated most of the India's bank branches. They were the pioneer to do Bank of Maharashtra as India's first bank branch automation. So that was my first entry into software. Was a regional manager for Pune, managing more profit and loss than the software, but on my own learned informatics, learned databases, learned programming, C++. Got into a company named Datamatics after that because there was a misleading advertise from them saying that they need CEOs. And I applied for CEO, and then they said, oh, you are not quite CEO, but you can be potentially CEO. But I landed up a job in Mumbai, joined them. But yes, I got through that and international exposure to United States customers, market, I learned a lot. Datamatics acquired a company here in Billerica, Massachusetts in year 2000. And I came here as a pre-sales engineer to take care of that company. Saw that salespeople were not doing much activities, so I decided to go and sell myself. 8 years, and my colleague is here, Balaji. So both of us grew the business from $4 million to $40 million. And then I realized that, if I can do for an unknown brand like Datamatics, I can do it for myself, because from engineering days, coming back to Aurangabad, my first entrepreneurship try was to go and set up a garage for Kinetic Honda. So I drove on my scooter to Pune, went to Kinetic Honda's factory, asked the service manager for a franchisee. He said, do you have 5 lakhs rupees? I said no, and then returned, and that didn't got killed that day. But this, as I said, this idea germinated here, and left Datamatics, started Findability Sciences, and that's the journey. It's a very high level, but
Sure.
a mechanical engineer converted into a software entrepreneur.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. My next question is to Sunny. So tell us about how did you land up in Singapore?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So I did my engineering in Pune, worked in Pune for a few years, and then always wanted to get exposure outside of India. How it is like working in a foreign country, in a foreign environment, in a multicultural place. So Singapore opportunity came up. I had uploaded my resume at some random place at some point in time, and somehow this startup, which was a Swiss-based company, was setting up their engineering operation in Singapore. They got my CV, and fortunately, this was a time frame when Microsoft was coming up with the WCF framework, the new kind of services framework. And I was always experimenting with new technology, trying out what's happening in the market and how to use that. And I had put that on my resume, and I had used that in my existing company, Persistent, as well. Gotten pretty good with it. And they picked up the phone, called me directly. Hey, are you working in this? I said, yes, of course. Can we get an interview? I said, yeah, sure. Then within the next few hours, I was on an interview call with one of the engineering heads, and that went well. And in a month's time, they wanted me in Singapore. So that was a pretty quick transition, just by being on leading edge of the technology at that point in time. This was like 2008. So that's how I came to Singapore, and liked it a lot over there. A beautiful country, small city state country. It's, I think, smaller than Boston probably. It's mostly 60 miles in radius, but it's very well structured, very well managed. Loved it. Stayed there for 9+ years, 10+ years I think, and then opportunity from Dell came when they acquired ELC, and then came to US after that.
Interesting, interesting. Shrikant, my question is, I mean, you are the more, your company is probably at the most initial stages, I would say. So during these initial stages, like how do you sustain yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for asking. So like Anand, I also am a first generation immigrant, first generation entrepreneur. I have no entrepreneur connections in my family. So it's a lot of like trying to fly a plane while learning, while building it on, in flight. And the initial stages were really, really hard. Fortunately, we have always been very good at trying to figure out, like do research and figure out, like how to go about doing something new systematically. And so when I started tinkering with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, there were lots of ideas. We all have ideas in our heads, and I was thinking of, okay, all of these ideas are good, but how do I know which ones will work? So started thinking of how to stress test these ideas, how to validate them and see which ones would actually lead to a working business model. And during my research, I came across a lot of resources that helped. One in particular that I got really inspired by is this lean startup methodology. There's a book by that name as well, and it talks about this scientific process applied to starting up. So initial stages, in terms of sustaining myself, I really just took to those ideas and focused on validating different hypotheses and trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and in the process pivoted quite a bit. I was also lucky in that my co-founder at networking went and we started working together. And the initial part of our working together was very much focused on compatibility, because one of the things I learned the most is number one reason startups fail is because they don't have enough funding, but the number 2 reason they fail is because there's founder conflict. So we want to make sure that we are very compatible, that our values match, and we actually enjoy working together. So this was what kept us employing initially, to make sure that we are good co-founders together and that we are working on an idea that actually could potentially succeed. And in the process, we learned a lot and pivoted, and are still learning. It's not a finished process.
Sure. Thank you. So, question to Anand. So, how do you get people to buy into your vision? That sure you have some ideas, but how do you get not just customers but even employees?
So, in fact, I have talked on this point a lot to many of the entrepreneurship forums, that what is entrepreneurship? Like you heard all of us, and mostly Sunny and I'm talking about, they pivoted few things.
Yeah.
Okay. So entrepreneurship is about you getting an idea and you feel that that is the world's best idea and you can make it happen. If you have those two feelings, the rest of the thing what you're saying in terms of convincing others is fairly easy. But what happens typically, because again, I'm from the school of thought that God has given everybody the same capability. So we three sitting on this side doesn't make anything special for us. That only one thing makes different is that when we got the idea, we jumped out of it. Whereas almost everybody gets everyday ideas and they say, oh, I'm going to start a company. So once you are convinced and once you jump in, people see the conviction in the way you communicate, the way you talk. As you rightly said, that not only just customers, but getting people work with you is also equally difficult. But more than that difficulty is even they continue working with you. But that only happens when they see that conviction in you, they see that leadership role in you, they know that there's something here, and that happens only when you get convinced personally. You can't get tonight an idea, get excited so much, and then next day morning you start finding problems around that idea. Saying, oh, but I can't do this because I don't have money. Oh, I can't do this because I have this. So that's simpler. But it's you being convinced makes it very easy to go and communicate to others.
I see. So I have another question. You mentioned in your first introduction that you became profitable in kind of like 6 months. So how did that happen?
So I started this. So we are unlike Sunny and Shrikant is that we do enterprise AI. But earlier the word avatar, as I told you, was a findability, which is the ability to find information. So it was a data platform. So it's a B2B sales. It's a very difficult sell. It's going and convincing a corporate that you have some multi-million-dollar idea and you implement that and get it. So the way it happened is that once we got the first customer, so in entrepreneurship also they teach you a lot of tricks, quote unquote, but one of the trick is that build a product after you sold it. So while it works many times, it also doesn't work many times. But yes, we had that idea. We created some initial architecture, and while in architecture phase, we sold it to a customer saying that this is what they can do it, and then got the first order, and just funded a company from there on, and it was never looking back. With one customer after another customer, and I think the Indian roots and Indian background helps you to be a cost-effective, cost-conscious, conservative, whatever you want to call it as. But that helped us to keep expanding elastically or contracting as required. But one thing I can be proud about myself is we didn't let go even one single employee in so many years because we don't have money. We let go some people because they were not performers, but nowhere, no time let somebody go because we are running out of cash. So I think combination of what we do in terms of enterprise software and we got the order, we executed, we got the orders, we executed. That model with a conservative approach have continued to. This may be a big statement, but today most of the analysts have rated one of America's only enterprise AI company which is A, revenue generating and B, profit making. The all enterprise AI, when I'm categorizing this enterprise AI, not the consumer AI where your websites and somebody subset, but enterprise AI where you go and sell it to corporate and do meaningful products for them. We are probably one of them or the only.
Oh, that's really impressive. That's really impressive. Thank you. Sunny, is this the same for you? Like, how do you get first customers? I mean, you are also in the initial stages of startup. How do you get the first customers?
It's so true, and I totally agree with what you said. In fact, before the event started, I was writing down the answers to get my thoughts together. I'll show you, I literally wrote down the same thing. About the vision, how do you sell it and things like that. So you yourself have to be convinced, you have to have that energy and motivation and dedication that you will go in, wake up every morning and execute. And once the team around you sees you executing, they start to follow along. Once the customer starts seeing you executing, making daily progress and keeping them updated, they say. So we haven't lost a single customer since November, but it's when we got our first customer. So it all boils down to how committed you are and how transparent you are, especially in the initial stages. When you are at 0 customers, maybe in 1 or 2 customers, your communication with customers becomes very important. Be extra transparent. I'm even transparent to the extent that I share my costs with them. Not the fixed cost, which is like, a lot of infra and employee salary, but tell them this is what hosting this space or their entire setup for their marketing costs us, and I show them on AWS, this is what we are spending and this is how we are progressing. These are list of bugs we are working on. Like one of the customers, he faces a bug every day. He has a habit of, he is very good, he finds bugs everywhere. He's Australian and very good in breaking our system. So he almost every day thinks me, oh, I found a bug over there, it's not working. My posts are not going out, my this thing is not working. So we keep that transparency with everyone, show them this is the list and we'll get down to this in next hour, this in next 4 hours, and this in next 24 hours. Keeping that communication with the initial customer is very critical. And once they see that, they then pass it on to others as well. So all our customers, we have not done a single cent of, we not spent a single cent on marketing. All our customers have come through referral. They were so impressed with the results they were getting and the way we were executing, delivering. they referred to others, they brought in more. So I think coming back to your question on how do you get your initial set of customers, it's your vision and talking about it, going into forums and expressing and being very honest. Honesty to the point where people will tell you why you're telling them that. It's okay. Just share with them openly on what you're doing and what you're facing, the challenges you're going through. Once you're honest, they will follow along. Especially in this market, people will trust eventually.
Is it the same thing with you, Shrikant?
Yeah, very similar. I mean, we all have our kind of slightly different flavors of it. Like for me, it's being a scientist at heart. You know, for me, the conviction came after I kind of put the ideas to its basis and done what I feel like it's rigorous testing to validate whether this would work or not. So that's why the initial part of our journey was focused on stress testing different ideas, and we did a lot of talking to customers, and in the process, potential customers, in the process is how we got those first customers. So we follow the model of having cohort-based customers, where we onboard a certain set of customers into one cohort. Like Sunny said, we work very closely with them, like hand in hand, and try to co-create a solution that with them that works for them, and hopefully will work for others as well as we generalize it. And so having this really close connection with the customers, being transparent with them, and ask, you know, like being curious about exactly what is the pain point, what is the problem that they're trying to solve, and then addressing that rather than just bombarding them with, hey, look at this shiny new feature and this cool thing and that thing. And most of the times they don't care. They care about solving, the customers care about solving problems. So being hyper focused on the problems is the key to get, you know, the customers. There's a quote I really like, which stuck with me when I first started entrepreneur journey, which is, fall in love with the problem, not your solution. Because your solution may be, you know, what you have in your mind may not be what the customer really wants or will solve the problem. But if you really understand the customer, understand them better than even they do, then, you know, it's easy to get customers and win the trust.
Sure. So the next question is maybe for you, because Anand's enterprise is little established, but like how do you go about planning, let's say, day-to-day activities? So it's because I'm sure in the initial stages, like some new fire is always there at the beginning. So do you plan a day, a week, or like how do you go about planning?
I can go first. So I usually plan my week in advance on what I need done within the week, and then every day, every 24 hours, there's a stand-up with me, with my team, and then I have my weekly meetings with the initial seed customers to get their feedback. So the week looks like on Sunday, the next week's planning happens on what needs to be executed, what bugs to be prioritized, and then within the week we have this weekly interlock meetings with customers to get all the feedback in. And then plus, so having planned everything, things still fall apart because you have unexpected fire. And I think maybe one thing that helps me a lot is I'm technical and I'm more into the infrastructure and technology. So I know what's gonna break where my weak points are, where my strong points are. And the moment I see customers moving towards the weaker parts of the platform, I preempt and go ahead and change the plan midweek and go aggressively in stabilizing that part of the platform. So it's a lot of like you plan for sure a week in advance, but then you keep it dynamic as you go along.
For us, we are actually in the fortunate position that the product we're building is exactly to solve the problem that you mentioned. And this is a problem that's faced by, you know, almost all the small business owners and entrepreneurs, startups that we've talked to. There's a conference I attended recently where the speaker asked the question, how many of you feel overwhelmed with all the things you have to do? And this was a conference of small business owners. Every single hand in the room went up. Like everyone is overwhelmed because there's a startup, in a startup there's always more to do and not enough time to do it. So prioritization becomes key, and we built our product basically around solving this central problems. How do you prioritize effectively? So for us, we actually eat our own dog food. We use our own product to determine how to prioritize what to work on at any given point in time. And we built a platform so that it's adaptable and flexible, so we can change it in real time. And use a lot of AI in our platform to help guide, you know, like what is more high impact and what is less impactful, and you can use that to guide us mostly what to work on. So we make a plan like day to day, week to week, and quarter to quarter. But we also stay very close to our plans and adapt it. And if there's a fire, like again, it's like flying an airplane and building it in midair. So if there's something that needs to be fixed, we go fix it and then adapt the plan accordingly. AI helps a lot in that. So again, being first-time entrepreneurs, we don't have all the experience that experienced founders have. So we lean on the knowledge and experience that we get through AI and to talking to getting insights from that to help guys.
Okay. Anand, I have a question, a little different question. So, did you think of like moving to California at some point of time? Because generally, like people, they want to scale business. There's a Silicon Valley and it's a software, and so.
So, I think if I can take a permission from you to just comment on to the earlier
Sure,
question, and
sure.
then because it's in a way linked to it.
Sure.
For me, while you thank you for saying that my business is a little bit established. That little bit is a very good word. There is no boring day, and I don't think I plan at all. I live that day. That's all, and that's how I have come to this level. And in living in that day, just getting up in the morning, see what it is there, and just keep going. I don't think that ever thought came to go anywhere west. It was always a thought to go east. So in a way, I moved to India. Initially, I started a company in Boston, planning for about a year, and then when I was getting some traction, I met Deshpande, which some of you may be knowing, and he said, "I'm starting an entrepreneurship development center in Hubli. I will give you free space there, and you start there." So that's a long story, but I went with a couple of people in Hubli for the matter, and then started there. So there was, because what I learned over this period now is that the California attraction is more for money. Okay, that you have lots of VCs, there is a networking, there is a funding, but I never looked at money as an option for running this company. Many people have commented now saying if you have done that, it would have been $1 billion or $10 billion, whatever valuation, but I was not motivated more towards that. But even to be honest, I think the life just went day after day after day. There was no planning saying, okay, let's go to California and make it big. I had 2 daughters, they were going to Chelmsford High School, they wanted to just be there, not leave Massachusetts, and never occurred that California will do something better than what is here. So that's the real answer, no thinking that something is better than here.
So it just happened.
It just happened. As I said, I don't take credit for that also, saying that something I did strategically being here. It just happened. I was here. Why I was here was because of my job. Why I'm here today, I don't know. But it just continued.
Thanks. Sagi, are there like any memorable experiences so far in your journey, both good and bad, like you stand out?
I think many. We all go through so many of those experiences. Memorable one definitely when we upgraded our user journey. That was back in like a couple months back. When we got on a call, we didn't tell the customer this is what's gonna happen. We just showed them, and suddenly seeing the twinkle in their eyes, the excitement, and how beautiful the experience was, that was really memorable. And that stuff. And every time we use that in our pitch to the new customers as well. We don't tell them what they're gonna, the output they're gonna see. We bring them on a call as a prospect and then show them live what the output will look like. And every time it has been a wow. Now we started recording those meetings so we can take out the clips for later on.
Yeah. So I would like to pose that same question to Anand because you have like more action there. So are there such?
Yeah, so I think entrepreneurship is a journey of ups and downs every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year. And the time just flies. There is no really thinking about what's memorable and what. Everything is memorable. Good and bad.
Yeah.
But what is bad in that, right? So not getting revenue, losing a customer or losing an employee or somebody coming in complaining. So all that's a part of life. The most memorable for me was that after this Hubli, as I was telling the story, I decided to go back to Aurangabad because I did my undergrad in 1,000 rupees, 4 years, 250 rupees a year fee for the national scholarship. And I said, I don't have deep pockets to do philanthropy or setting up a school or college. I can create an employment in the town which gave me engineering degree and my career. So set up in Aurangabad. Now, by the way, if you can Google my name and company name, Times of India 2 weeks ago or a week ago featured full page story on us. That world-class AI work happens in Aurangabad, which is now rebranded as Sambhajinagar. It's a town in Maharashtra, those who may not know. But the memorable thing I'm coming to is that in that town, everybody opposed, saying English is a big challenge, communication is a big challenge, how are you going to get quality engineers? But I didn't give up, I just stick to my cause. And the memorable was 2-3 years ago, I went to Aurangabad, I was there, and whenever I generally go every quarter, we make sure that we invite all the families to office, not just the employees, and we had a dinner and lunch. And one of the employees, a girl, she actually had walked into our office looking for a job, literally from shanties. She lived literally in huts in Aurangabad on the street side. And she said, I don't know software, I don't know data, I don't know AI, I'm just from commerce or science graduate, but I really desperately need a job. We took her and we groomed her, and she's one of our very well performing employee now. But her parents came to the office for that lunch, held my hand, and they were just crying. No words, no comment, but they were fearful of talking to me, quote unquote CEO, but they were just crying, and I couldn't really realize what I can do, but I think that is one of the best memories I have. And after that, I actually invested more into that cause, and that's the reason why Times of India covered us, saying that even from a small town, we can create a world-class AI. So like that, there are many, but that probably is a standout for me.
Sure. Thank you. So, Sunny, I know that you have run marathons, and that is too without training. So, I mean, marathon is not like a very light sport, and it's so torturous. So, just talk to us, like, does that help you in your entrepreneurship journey? Like,
Yes, it does.
withstanding the pain?
I like to take the problem head on. I like to test my limits on how much pain can I take. So I've run multiple marathons in Singapore, zero training. People have told me that you need to train for 6 months, 9 months, do every day 5-mile runs, and then condition you for that. The first half marathon I did, that was like, I was encouraged by a girl who was doing a lot of practice and she was running marathons. So like, why don't you come and do a half marathon? I was like, okay. I had totally forgotten about it, and the day before the marathon, she called me. Okay, tomorrow is a half marathon. Are you coming? I said, yeah, of course I'm coming. What should I tell her? That I'm not trained. So I just went in and I finished it in 2 hours. Like, if I can do it in 2 hours and she did it in little less than 2 hours, I'm not that bad. So I think the question we all keep asking ourselves is, am I good enough? So you're going to stop asking that question, am I good enough? Just say, I'm the best. We'll see what will happen. The worst is I'm gonna fail. Maybe I'll have bruises in my leg, which I had. Maybe you'll have swollen toenails, which I had. It's okay. It's part of the journey. So I recovered in the next 1 week. It was a week of pain, but I learned my limits. And then I said, let's try it on a full marathon. Went with a full marathon, did couple of them, never trained. But yeah, after that half marathon, one thing did change was that I made morning running a regular habit. So if you can say it was sort of a training for marathon, but it was not really training. I used to do 5-kilometer runs every day morning, almost 5 days in a week. So that maybe helped in a way, but it was not a conscious marathon training that I did. Especially for the first half, there was no training. For the first marathon, if you count those 5-kilometer runs as a training, you can say yes, I trained. But if I've seen people training for marathons, they go crazy. So nothing like that, nothing fancy. I was eating gulab jamuns, I was eating ice creams, I was eating everything under the sun. I'm gonna eat a samosa after this as well. So yeah, take on the problem head on and you will learn your limits and appreciate your limits and learn from them.
Sure.
That's something.
So, Shrikant, I know you are big into learning, so in Spanish. So, the Spanish learning, are you still finding time to learn Spanish?
Yeah, so I started learning Spanish when I was in California because there's a lot of Spanish people there. And one of my best friends from grad school was Mexican. So first I started learning by talking to him, and I have a Duolingo streak that now I think is almost coming up over 1,000 days now, so more than 3 years, which I'm very proud about. I did have to break it in between because of the family emergencies, but otherwise I try to keep it on. And I think it's a good way to, like, learning keeps your mind fresh, and sometimes you get some, ideas from, some things that connections happen in your brain that you never think about, and so I do find it a very relaxing and good way to keep myself sharp. So yeah, I'm continuing. Even this morning before coming, I was doing Duolingo just to make sure I keep my streak alive.
Okay. Alright, so I'm going to stop now and I'm going to open floor. So if you have any questions for our panel, yeah, go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for your inspiring stories. I have lots of questions that come to mind, and I'll start with one.
So the 5K is in the.
So I think I heard all three of you say you bootstrapped, right? So was that a conscious choice, or was it because you were knocking on the doors of VCs and they said, no, whatever, and then you had no other choice? Or you consciously said, I'm not pursuing the VC path and I'm just going to bootstrap and just figure it out myself?
So, good. Right. So I can start over there. So my journey started about 3 years ago. There's some bit of backdrop over there. So 3 years ago, I was working on a procurement software, and I went through YC till the final round. $500,000 funding was right on the table. 1 minute away, that 1 minute conversation, you get $500,000 to build out your vision, or you go back to finding more VCs. So could not make it that final round. Did the interview. Actually, we did 2 interviews, which was very odd for YC. They only do 1 interview and decide on that. For me, they had to schedule a second interview because they were not so strong in the procurement space to interview me and justify that whether I should be part of the cohort or not. Which is okay. Then they actually decided no, that's okay. So when we missed that and I missed that, then I decided, well, I'm gonna spend either a lot of time trying to find out VCs to fund me, or I can just go ahead and build something and see where it goes, and then take a decision later on. And between then and now, what has also happened is I realized that we don't know what is gonna really land into a multi-billion-dollar idea. I will try and pivot. So I became very conservative from the standpoint of taking somebody else's money. Then first 2 years I was still working at Dell, so I was able to fund this from my salary. That okay, I'm gonna pay myself and hire a couple of engineers and build this out. Was able to self-sustain. Last year I left job. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep a runway of a year to see where this goes, and then after I take a decision. So with that money in the bank, I was able to pivot, change directions, and experiment a lot of things, which might not have happened with VC money. So to answer your question, VC money was the starting option for me when I went through YC. But when I got rejected over there, I to some extent took it on my ego as well. I was like, I'm gonna do it on my own. I'm gonna show it to everybody now. So then set aside some savings and money and got some early advisors who were friends who were betting on me, and they put in like 10K each. So there are 3 friends of mine who put 10K, 30K. If you count that as a VC money, I don't know. It's sort of a super angel who was just betting on you because you're so aggressive that you're gonna get somewhere, and they just want to put some money in it. So we got 30K of that, and then remaining all of it was my own savings. At this point, we have good enough runway left for 1 more year, I would say now. That and we didn't take any money. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. That's great.
So I can answer your question in 3 different ways. So I'm very quick, 1 sentence each. The first serious answer, never pursued. Was never interested in. The second half serious answer, I didn't know that you need to take money to run a business. Because I was an employee, I was just running, getting out of the poverty line in my job. Never knew the entrepreneurship models, particularly the capitalistic models in America. I learned safe notes just a couple of years ago. I had no concept of safe notes and seed funding, etc. And third answer is a little funny answer. Afterwards, learned that you need either family, friend, or fools to invest into your company as a seed funding. My family was poor, I had no friends, and I didn't want to deal with fools.
I love that answer.
That's all the answer. But for me, like I was, for me, my journey was very initially very research based, and I was like trying to analyze every single thing like as much as possible. And what I discovered was that VC money, while it's lucrative, is also comes with a lot of strings attached. And in the beginning, and even now to some extent, I'm not sure if the trade-offs are worth it. Like again, we are open to the idea if we with the right VC, but fortunately, both me and my co-founder are in a position where we could pay ourselves for at least some time while we figure out a working model. And the other part of this answer is we learned that even VCs, when they fund you, they look at the traction that you're generating, like how many customers you have, how much the revenue you're generating, all that. So we realized that if we focus our attention on rather than chasing VCs, chasing traction and trying to get customers, then we're in a stronger position if we want to raise funding later on. So it was kind of a decision that was made by some research and thinking about it.
Thank you.
I have actually two questions. If it's okay, I'll start with the first and then come back to the second. I'd be curious to hear what your personal definition of being successful is.
So subjective.
That's why I
Ask a
said
person
personal.
who weighs 200 pounds and he lost 20 pounds, is he successful? In his eyes, maybe he is. And ask the same person to a marathon runner that you have put on, or you put on two extra pounds, is he going to be successful? The answer is going to vary. So I think success is very subjective. It all boils down to what your motivations are or what you want to get to eventually. If you are making one step or getting one step closer to your end goal, I would say that's success.
So in the context of entrepreneurship, if you are not shut down, that's a success. And I stuck to it. I call myself unserial entrepreneur because people generally get into some success, start another company and do another thing, etc. So I'm an unserial entrepreneur, not started in garage but didn't shut down. And paid every single day, every single month on the same day or 2 days in advance salaries to everybody. I call that as a success. The rest doesn't matter.
For me, again, going back to how I, like to think about things and try to be objective as much as possible. One of the things we did at the very beginning was define what we call as minimum success criteria, both me and my co-founder for ourselves. So what that was, that's subjective of course, but we put some numbers down. Like, if we are generating this much revenue, this much in profitability, these many customers, that will be considered success. And that was part of the criteria we used to evaluate different business models and see which ones would work, which ones wouldn't work. So we would do these exercises on paper, use Fermi estimates. I don't know if you're aware of the concepts, but Carter micro analysis to kind of like see, is this business idea going to get us in the ballpark of what we consider success? If so, great, let's pursue this. If not, reject it and move on. So we have tried to approach it kind of in a scientific way as much as possible, but there is obviously, as you mentioned, some subjectivity there because every person's success criteria is different.
And my second quick question is, what's the best advice you received as an entrepreneur?
The one who already started, the one who wants to start.
What you received?
Sorry, no,
What's the best advice you have received?
I received.
Yeah, you have received as an entrepreneur.
Oh, this is a very interesting question because I have a complaint on that topic. Because people come and give advice who have not tried anything and they just tell you to do something which they want, they feel that you are like, but anyway, that's a different.
I hate those people too.
Yeah, so.
They like to give free advice.
Yeah, and we are doing the same here, but.
No, no.
I think it's, I don't remember anything specifically which really came from someone which helped dramatically. I think it's just the inner voice is what guides you in this journey. It's a very interesting journey. I'm not making it as a big thing, but really even if you're running a shop or a hand cart on the roadside or running a big corporation, entrepreneurship is not easy. And while all can say that I can feel what you're going through, but they don't. And it's not a criticism on them, it's just impossible for someone to know what's going on. So someone giving advice and really work, at least it has not worked for me. And I never went on going around and asking for it because, as I said, so just all the way guided by my voice. Failed 99.99%. What I hear is 0.01% success. But that's not how it happens.
Totally agree. I mean, all the advice that you see, they're very context based. So if you take it out of context, it's not gonna help you. And what you're going through in your day is so many things that another advice, oh, you could do this. Yes, but I already know what I have to do. I'm following, like you said, your inner voice. So advice in that way doesn't really help. And all the advice you find, you have to go through the pain actually, to be very honest, to really know what is right, what is wrong.
Yeah, as Sunny mentioned, there's so much advice available out there, and a lot of it is by people who haven't really tried it, and it sounds very like right. You're like, oh yeah, this makes sense, but like this popular one is fail fast, like iterate and all that. And most of it is either not actionable or not relevant to you. One of the advice that did stick with me, which I mentioned before, was this: fall in love with the problem rather than the solution, and that has helped me and my co-founder get unstuck from our, like it's easy to get attached to ideas and keep going forward when you can clearly see it's not getting the traction you want. So this is a good way for us when we remind ourselves, like, are we solving the right problem? So fall in love with the problem means not only understand the customer problem deeply, but also is it something you feel passionate about solving? Because if the passion is not there, then as the other two panelists said, that you're not going to be able to sustain yourself. You're going to burn out. So if it's a problem that you're passionate about solving and it's a real problem that you really understand, then that should guide how you work and not focus on, oh, this is my solution, this is how I'm solve it. So that is really helpful so far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question for Anand actually. That is regarding your Hubli experience, right? Because Deshpande is actually a very known person here. So I just wanted to kind of get your views on what was good about it, what was not so good about it.
So it was very early, so we were the first tenants into the infrastructure they had built. I don't know if any of you know what they have done there. Is that there's a BBB engineering college. It's a 100-acre campus of engineering college, very well known in that part of the country. In that campus, about 10-acre land was taken, and they built a entrepreneurship development center, a big auditorium and some cubicles and offices, etc. So I was offered initially for 3 months free of cost, and then was paying the rent for the place, and recruited few engineering students from the BBB engineering college. So that was the model. I don't think there's anything specifically good or bad about it. It was good for me to start with. The rental was cheaper, like 500 rupees per seat, something like that. It has now grown because that was very early time, and in 1 year I moved to Aurangabad. But now Mr. Deshpande has gone into a very robust 360-degree support to entrepreneurs. Not just the renting the space, but now they do right from getting customers to building your marketing decks to helping you on product. There is quite a lot now exchange between Boston area and Hubli now. They have actually built now residences for people going from here and staying. But I was not part of that full-blown ecosystem at the very initial stage, but I think probably cheap rental was the first attractive thing. But Hubli, like from Mumbai, that had to travel 13 hours by bus, and that was started becoming very difficult. So Pulaut and Aurangabad was better connected by the flight, or even train or road, and so it's not that bad from Mumbai.
Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
So, thank you for having me. I'm clearly not Indian, I'm first generation Nigerian. My name is Chio Kohli, so I'm excited to be here. I have 2 questions. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a physician, and I've had a practice for a few years now, about maybe almost 8-10 years. But we are getting into the IT world by necessity, really. We take care of older adults, and now we find that older adults are ending up in the emergency room a lot. So we're trying to figure out how to help the family members do a better job of caring for their loved ones, and there's too many things involved. So we started to build out the software. So my question is, bootstrapping is the only way to survive, because I think, once you take someone's money, it's very difficult to make decisions. And so we've been doing that, but it's incredibly expensive to have your own, software or some kind of engine that allows you to be more efficient, reach more people. How do you spend your first $1,000, first $10,000? And marketing and sales. Actually, those are the 2 questions. Those are the biggest struggles we have. I'm a physician at heart. I don't know a thing about marketing, but I had to learn aggressively to run what I have. Software is totally different. It's like I'm starting from beginning. I'm starting from scratch again. And I am very intimidated by that. So, what are your thoughts?
That's the whole reason why we build faster. I can solve one part of the problem, which is marketing side. So that's where faster comes in. So we should talk after this event. So That's for marketing. And for engineering, I think that really is a tough one. And what honestly has helped me is me being myself an engineer. So I don't know. I mean, the cheapest possible path is you being an engineer yourself. Otherwise, it is costly. And I have seen across the landscape, there are good people, there are not so good people. Not so good people will tell you they can build something, and they're gonna spend time and not build anything because it's not in their capability spectrum. So having a very core technical person very close to you is probably what you should be or could consider. They should help you. So that person can help you decide how to spend that $1,000 if you're spending on engineering. Engineering is a complex field. There are tools available, AI tools available out there to build applications, but still with that, there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of infrastructure which you need to understand to manage that. So we are not at a point where you can go to an AI platform and say, hey, build me out a booking system and it'll do everything. You just sit back and relax and give the link to your customers, go here, make the bookings, I'll get to know. It's not at that point yet. So you will need eventually, or if you don't have, you should consider looking at someone who can give you that technical knowledge or fill out a technical gap. That is a very essential piece if you're dealing with the software.
Yeah, so I mean, my take on it is, like in our own process, the first thing is to really understand from the customer's point of view what it is that the problem they're trying to solve, and then essentially make a technical requirements document based on that. Like, what is it that the software needs to do? Because as an engineer myself, having worked in different capacities and being founding team members in a few different companies, both at Amazon and a startup, I know that initial visions can be very blurry, and it's very hard to navigate, like exactly what to build. So engineers really appreciate precision, like knowing exactly, like specifying exactly what needs to be built. And that information will come from customer discovery interviews. So when you talk to customers, you try to understand the problems, then go back and try to build this document that specifies in as much detail as possible exactly what needs to be done. And once you have the document, then you have a sense of the scope of what the engineering work involved is, and then you can make a call. I've seen some people create a very basic prototype of what they want to build, like with just a few features using any of the AI tools that are available. There are some that can build you very basic functionality in some software. It's not a full-fledged thing, as Sunny mentioned, because like that takes a lot of work. But at least some basic working prototype of like what it is that you're trying to build, and then you can. That really helps when you go and talk to other engineers. Really helps them to see what you're trying to build. So rather than describing, in plain English, like, hey, this is what I want, this is what I want. If you have something that's kind of representative of what you're trying to build, it really helps. So I would say initially spending a little bit of money, you won't even need $1,000. Like less than $100 should be enough to like get some basic version of prototype ready using one of these AI tools, and then use that to shop around to find good engineers, as Sunny said, to kind of flesh out the product.
So it's a combination of things we talked since last 1 hour. The first is, where do you spend your first $1,000, $10,000? Sales cures everything. Okay, so this sentence I remind myself every day, morning, evening. So if you get sales, you get money. If you get money, you can solve other problems. So therefore, spend money on that will be my request, not advice. The second is that for your problem, you being from the non-software field, from the physician, medical background, there are different models available where you don't need to necessarily spend money in getting something developed from there. So for example, if you have established a company, you can find out a software company who can say, okay, I will do work for you for equity in your company. Okay, so those models really work well, and I got into such models involved in the early stages because the companies like us also need some customer reference experience to claim, and the customers like you who can't afford to spend money right to get go can also get benefit of that. So I would look for that option for you, having a company partner, individual who can trade in, because you can in initial days definitely use your equity as a currency, and that is a very powerful motivator to many companies, and you will find it more than what you can think about, where you can say that I will give you X number of shares of my company and build this first prototype for me, After that, we can pay you Y, etc. So those conditions you can get into it, but the money which you have, don't spend on software. So spend on sales.
I have a question.
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you for being here. Very interesting stories. I've been around startup entrepreneurship for quite some time. Some of the stories, the experience you share, validates some of the thinking that I've had over the years. One question I have for all three of you is people talk about entrepreneurship, startup ecosystem as a risk-taking culture. And then before we started, when you sat up here, we were talking in the hallway. And there are people over here who want to start, they have an idea, but I think, personally, that they don't want to take the risk. So from your journey, tell us one risk that you took and the lesson from that risk that you can share with us. So people who are willing or not willing to take risk will step up and take the risk and start their own journey.
I can start just in very short thing. I think the risk is start, okay? And what you should be thinking and what I did was to think an alternative. Okay, so what if you fail? And I had an option very loud and clear in my mind. If I fail and if I run out of my couple of hundred, I had $10,000 in bank, is to go back to India and be a professor in a school. And I was very comfortable of landing at least that job. Because finally, what is the issue? Because the failure is always mostly about money. Nobody talks about any other failure. There can be reputation, etc. But what is the risk of jumping into something? Well, 99.99% I have met who are interested in entrepreneurship, they say, oh, but if I leave the job, then how will I run family? So the risk is that, and there is an alternative which you are confident about it. That's the courage you get, and that's what I have done.
So I have one question. So most of you are founders. I think you are a co-founder. You mentioned.
Yeah,
So
I'm a co-founder.
you are a co-founder. So when you when you came up with the idea, do you have some kind of a founder's written statement, something like that? This is how this company will go in future, or you just make decisions on the fly?
I don't think I planned for that. As I said earlier, so just live by the day. So there's nothing grand vision or grand plan. Wanted to be an entrepreneur, wanted to start a company, wanted to do some commerce, and just started. And it happens when people go and create a group of people to do. But as I said, I was solo. This journey is very solo.
Why were you solo? I mean, because most of the it would be very logical that one person cannot really do everything, so he needs somebody to support him. And
Right, but you don't need to necessarily have founders for that.
okay,
And plus my story is a little bit different. Is very interestingly, very quick succession in my career, got involved into almost every aspect of business. Right from mechanical engineering to shop floor, hands-on blue collar worker job, to software programming, to managing a region, managing profit and loss, acquiring companies, doing mergers and acquisition, doing IPO. I was president of Datamatics when we made IPO, and it was the highest successful IPO of BPO in India at that time. So I was involved in IPO, making VCP, JSK. So I pretty much had a confidence of doing all that alone, and that's what happened. So, and plus it's also, to me, it's more who you are, what's your personality. Okay, so there are some people who can't work without a group. In fact, I keep telling my team members, I'm the best when I'm locked into a door and I'm alone in the room. That's where my highest level of performance starts. But it's just a matter of everybody. There's nothing wrong or right into it. So.
does that get into conflict with your team then? Like,
No. Because that's the management style. So having founders and managing the team is a different thing. That doesn't mean that when I'm saying I'm better solo, that doesn't mean that you cannot manage a team or work with a team. It is just that your ability to work and contribute. And the management style can be different, because the same things, if you are given to others to work in a silo and make it successful independently, that's how it works.
I think both the questions are sort of very linked as well. Your risk, what is risk, and you need a co-founder. So to some extent, if you find a co-founder, yes, that's a good thing, go for it. but you can't be waiting for a co-founder to come in to take the risk. And what is risk? At the end of the day, I really don't see in terms of risk and reward. It's about this needs to be get done. This is needed. So we're gonna get it. How? We'll figure it out. We're gonna fail? Maybe. Who cares? One day we all gonna die. So what matters at the end of the day?
I try to answer both the questions because to me also the answers are connected. So in terms of the risk, for me too, I'm someone who mostly worked in kind of research scientist roles. Used to working by myself, building my own models and stuff. There's this African proverb that I really started listening with a lot, which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so for me, the biggest risk was, having someone come in at the early stage as a co-founder and, like ensuring compatibility. Like I never met this person before. I'm meeting them for the first time. It's not like we worked together for many years. And the way I thought about de-risking is by just starting to work on something small together, see how well we work, see if the values match, see if we are able to stand each other basically, because entrepreneurship is hard, let's face it, like there's lots of challenges that come up. And if you can be in a room with them without losing your mind and shouting at each other, then that's a good sign, right? So we basically spent the first 6 months basically getting to know each other, making sure we're compatible. And then once we found that, then we basically had this whole trial period concept. We were like, we're working together on a trial period. The intention is to work long term, but if things don't work out, they don't work out. Because again, we didn't want the company to fail because of founder conflict. So there's pros and cons. Like being a founder is a very challenging thing, and it's good to have people around you, but you also don't want to like just go and find someone and force this founder relationship, right? So there's inherent pros and cons there. But that for me would be one of the biggest risks, is to being able to trust people and see that like if you find someone you really resonate with, that's one way you can like have the courage to go forward, because it's always better to have someone with you when you're doing something as challenging as this.
Good. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Roshan, I think we briefly talked about first customers or initial set of customers when you start a company. But can you go a little bit into details about how do you go about knocking doors and like what is it? Is there any tips or like is there what about your learnings from that? How do you?
I think for me it was definitely a journey into initial customers, and this journey's seeds were planted back in April when I left my job at Dell. So back in April last year, I was still focused on operations management for Faster. I left the job thinking that okay, I'll figure it out, I'll find the customers, something is gonna happen. Once I go all in, it's like you throw the person in the swimming pool, he will learn to swim. That's what we were doing. So I went and left the job. For first 3 months I was on the road, knocking doors on every company in New England, like New York, Connecticut, Mass, Rhode Island, in this area. I went to at least like 40-50 different manufacturing companies over here, trying to sell the vision of the operational management platform to help them. To my surprise, nobody was interested. And then between those conversations, what happened was we learned about that, whenever we touch the sales aspect of it, marketing aspect of it, everybody's listening. Like, what the heck? I'm talking about something else and you're touching something else. So that built out some, subconscious learnings in my mind, and it still did not strike me back then. So this was back in October. I was getting desperate for customers because I had like 6 months of runway left from where I started. So out of a desperation, I knew what my platform was capable of. I knew what was resonating with those initial conversations. So I created a pitch to which our platform was able to do 30-40% of what people were looking for. So I just made out a one-pager and dropped it in a Slack group. Hey, this is what we are doing, looking for initial customers, free of charge, come in, have a conversation. If you're looking for this, happy to support, otherwise don't worry about it. So 30% of product was there, 70% was not there. It's like, building out the architecture and sharing with the customers and they'll buy it. To some extent, that's what we did. So I dropped it, within 5 minutes, the whole Slack was buzzing. I was like, what did I do? So, and in between that, what happened was, this was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I dropped that message and I went back to sleep. 2 hours later, I saw they were like literally messaging flying in 5 minutes after I put that in. So we had some conversations, got some people on the call, and we told them, hey, this is where we are. Yes, we shared the end goal. This is gonna happen, but this is where we are. We're gonna, get together. So one customer started, then second, third, fourth, and that deck made its way to lot more people in that forum later on. So 1 2 months later, lot of people reached out, hey, can we join? I'm like, yeah, this is the first time somebody is asking me, can we join? For the longest time, I was desperate to go out and tell them, please, please come, listen to me, please see, this is what we're building. This is a beautiful platform, this will help you. So nothing worked, and then one day suddenly with that one single message, that eventually that slide went to lot more people who that was forwarded by them to other people. They came to us. So I think that's where, I don't know if that answers the question, how do you
Helps.
get that, but it's a lot of pieces coming together. So you have all the groundwork laid out, and suddenly they all kind of resonate, and you don't know what that exact moment is, at least for us.
For me, it was a lot about like being curious. Like really is helped us a lot. Really being curious about the customer. So the first thing we were asking the question is, what are the kinds of customers we would like to work with, right? Because there are some customers that neither me and the co-founder resonate with it, and we didn't want to really work with them. But there's some other customers, both in our professional networks and otherwise, that we knew that we thought, oh, this would be really good to work with. So then, before seeing them as customers, just talking to them, like trying to get their world, we're trying to understand, like what is it, what are the pain points, what are they trying to, what is the main problems they're encountering, is the key. Like first we talk to them basically as almost like collaborators or as colleagues, and like, hey, like I'm curious to learn about your worldview. And then that curiosity really helps you go to the root of the problem. And then you come back with, what we call a mafia offer, where we're like, okay, we understand your problem, we have built something, and because you've talked to them and understood it deeply, they're like, oh yeah, I would really want to try this. And it's funny because you talk to one customer and you learn some problems, and you talk to 2, 3, 4, you start seeing these patterns, and then you end up building something that works for not just 10 people you talk to, but a lot more. And so we have the same thing, where when we pitch, customers say, hey, where can I sign up, right? What can I do? So initially in our case, we had built our product, and our marketing was focused only on women entrepreneurs and women small business owners. But a lot of men came up to us and were like, hey, like, I want to use this too, this looks really cool. So eventually said, you know what, there's no point in artificially limiting it. So yeah, sure, you can use it. So now, so that way, when we have people coming, but it's from understanding, being curious about the customer's problem, and then they become your customer, like really understanding customer better than they do. That's what we can do.
So often in the entrepreneurship, there is a overused word called networking. Okay, and there are lots of networking summits and meetings and etc. But it has the importance to that if I'm using it a little funnily. The first customer comes really from your reputation as an individual and combination of networking, which I call it as, when you combine that, it becomes net weaving. So just going without knowing that there is some published networking event, and therefore you're going there and having a cocktail and standing there and telling everybody about it, might work sometimes, but it's a very hard to keep doing those networking events. But when you're starting entrepreneurship, like again, I'm taking my case, I'm not giving an advice, that I knew what I'm doing, and I had some connections where people knew my reputation about knowledge, delivery, personality, commitment, ethics, morality, whatever word you want to take it. So there was a ready to give chance type of thing. And then once you happen that, then you are weaving that with something else, and you'll be surprised that today almost 90+%, if I'm not exaggerating, the business in my company comes only by referrals. Just people say, okay, go to East Coast in Boston, that company is really great. And that helps. It takes time, I'm not saying it's very easy, but your question first is, I think, if you know the network, your professional network, customers, past customers, somebody knows, exploiting that really works very well. You can keep knocking the networking events also, that can be another possibility, but I think the net weaving, your reputation combined with network is the key.
Thank you.
So, I have a related question for Anand. How do you differentiate between ideas or thoughts, right? For example, you might be thinking of a lot of things which you think are, probable business case ideas. how do you finally say, this is what really, I should focus on? Because the rest is just thoughts, right? Yeah, you probably are thinking about improvements. But how do you then tone down to saying that this seems possible, and this is where I should invest my effort? Do you do market research? Do you share it with, who do you share it? Like, for example, for you, fortunately you were doing the marketing side of it. But for people who are probably not, right? But they have something, they are thinking of something. How do you evaluate? What is the need? I mean, should you do it or should you not do it?
So I have a very funny answer to this. I hope you don't mind me
No, no.
making it. It's just to make it lighter. When a boyfriend decides to marry with a girlfriend or vice versa, there's a passion comes into it. Right? There's a sleepless nights. So passion is an overused word. That's why I don't want to use the word that you should be passionate about it. But what is that passion? That you don't sleep in the night because of that thought or idea, as you said. The thought and idea is that this is the girl I'm going to get married, or this is the boy I'm going to get married. What is the analysis you have done that time? What market research you have done that time? I think this is the same applicable to your idea. You should be so restless, okay, to make it happen. Because I think maybe there are some young people here, but each one of you have gone through that phase. It's in life about, oh, you want to do this relationship. And in that passion which comes in, that anxiety which comes in, you're ready to do anything for that, right? We have seen all Bollywood movies and even Hollywood movies for that. That idea when you can't sleep, that's where that. See how many, and the moment you start market research, you will start finding negative things. I'll tell you a very interesting experience with me. My ability to take risk have gone down significantly today than when I started. And the only reason for that is now I ask more questions. Should I do this? But at the beginning, it was just strike. But now when you start asking 10 questions about, oh, this is right, or let's go and ask Shailesh, she has done this, let's say this, that guy has done, you will get only negative feedbacks. And your market research will eventually lead you to saying, no, this somebody is already doing it, or you need more money for it, you are a wrong guy. But how many ideas in the world are repeat and they have succeeded? So again, as I said that, if I can use Hindi, I know, so excuse for those who are not Hindi language speaker, but that ghanti balni chahiye. Once that bell rings, then things happen. You can do some market research, but let's going blind is where I have seen many successes. Not only what we do it, but just, yeah, you will know someone, but then you have a reason why I'm better than that person. But if you do market research and you find someone, then you'll say, oh, that person is already doing it, so you pull yourself back.
I also had a question around the first customer. And you might have answered it already, but having been with a few startups, I always found it the hardest thing to get that first or second customer, and of course when you do get that first purchase, second purchase order, it's the greatest joy in the world, right? But one of the obstacles I always ran into, and I wasn't in software, I was in materials and manufacturing, so very different area. But even if I could, I get it, pain point, and I had a solution, and all that good stuff. Still, the customer has to take a bet on a startup, right? And in my case, it was they had to design you in, and you are here today, you're gone tomorrow. That guy's neck is on the line here. So I found a lot of hesitancy to say, okay, I don't want to be the first customer. I'll be the second customer, the third customer, not the first one. And so I found it very difficult to get that first purchase order. Did you encounter those type of obstacles where, well, I don't want, you're a no-name, you might be out of business tomorrow?
Yes, always. And I have an analogy for that is, are you selling aspirins or are you selling vitamins? Okay. If you are selling aspirin and the customer is getting heart attack, you not going to care if you are being supported or you are behind someone, you are funded or not, you are going to remain on board. So that's a very nice and because vitamins, and typically we entrepreneurs, including me, I am victim of that vitamin theories, going and telling how your organization will be great when you use my software. Often there where that feelings come in of, oh, but what happens if you run away or if you die or if your company closes down? Oh, you are just started, nobody has tried this vitamin and got healthy. how are you going to try on me? So all those questions come in. So what I learned is that eventually, and again, I'm not saying I succeeded, I fail, as I said, more often than success, but I have constantly seen that the aspirin communication works more than vitamins.
Totally agree. I think it eventually boils down to the pain. What's the alternate? Do you want to continue with that toothache or heart attack, or do you want to solve it? If you want to solve the pain, then what are you going to look at? You have 10 options, maybe. Maybe you have only one option, and the only option is us on the table. And that's where it, for us at least, it boiled down to this like for you. So they were doing everything manually. They were trying to figure out so many different tools and dealing with like code editors, which are a pain to use. We know it because we use ourselves as well. So when we showed them the alternative, well, this solves the pain. And once they started enjoying it, the experience was bug free. There's no looking back after that.
Yeah, I think echoing what they said, but in a slightly different way, is like really earning customer trust is key. And the way you earn customer trust is to really understand their worldview as best as you can. Initially, you're not pitching to them, you're just like having a conversation, just curious about what is it that they're encountering issues with. And in our case, what also helped is that we ourselves are our first customers, so there is already proof in our pudding in that we are using our own product to run our company, and we are very happy with it. So that again is a coincidence which may not apply to you, but having the key is to really like understand the customer worldview in such a way that when you're able to relate back to the customer the pain points in your own words, that truly shows your understanding. There comes this sense of almost authority, where they trust you because they're hearing from you the words that they're not able to articulate themselves, which comes from this deep research that you do on the customer problems. The same kind of different types of customers, the same thing. And once this sense customer trust comes in, then they're more willing to put money on the line. Like, you know what, you seem to really know what you're talking about because you're saying it in the way I understand it. It resonates with my worldview. And once you're able to gain that customer trust, then it becomes much easier to not only get that first customer, also retain them. And in the process of retention, it's important to have this transparent, communication, as the other panelists said, to be constant back and forth, make sure that they are really getting value out of your product. If not, how you can enhance the experience. That really helps a lot. That's what we've observed in our experience.
I totally agree. That's the specific thing you mentioned about talking, speaking the language which they're not able to articulate in, and once they hear it from you and they suddenly say, oh yeah, that's what I was getting to, but I'm not able to express it. You express it for me. It kind of like builds that trust that oh, this guy knows about my problem space better and lot more than what I know. And then at the end of the day, they also have to, they look at it from the lens that this guy comes in whose specialty is just focused on this one single thing, productivity. Me as a business has to learn 10 different things. This guy comes in with one particular niche expertise, which is productivity. Do I want to trust him, or do I want to trust somebody else who maybe is not that available? Platform is a multi-billion dollar company, which for them maybe are a very small customer. I think that also plays a big part in the whole conversation. Speaking the language which they are not able to articulate in.
Thank you. So, probably not. Maybe we can ask in one-on-one. So I want to keep some time for like a one-on-one interaction afterwards. So that's why we're stopping. So let's give a round of applause. And also an announcement to make. So if there is enough interest for the AI workshop, Shrikant would be interested in hosting such workshops. So if there is enough interest, let us know. We can coordinate with him and we can have a workshop.
Maybe you can just do a quick show of hands here, like if we have a workshop for how you can use AI to make yourself more productive, whether you're running a business or not. Like how many people would be interested in it? Oh, quite a few. Okay. Seems like a good number. Yeah. So please get in touch with Shailesh and we can figure out the details.